Every day, 100 Americans are killed with guns and hundreds more are shot and injured. Gun violence affects all those who witness it, experience it, or know someone who has been through it, increasing the suicide rate per year.
We're going to be interviewing Zubair Altaf. First question, can you please describe your experience?
I was helping my older brother looking for a used car, and I came across a listing on Craigslist of a car that he was interested in. Contacted the person, scheduled a time to meet just north of Baltimore at a very busy intersection. When we got there, two guys surrounded us with a gun and a knife and robbed us, took our wallets, money, and a phone.
Second question, how has this incident impacted your life?
After that incident, for a very long time, I avoided making any transactions on Craigslist. And the next time when I did use Craigslist, I carefully selected the person I was dealing with and the location of meeting, where there was more presence of public, places like malls and grocery stores.
Per year, there is an average of a total of 36,383 deaths. About 22,274 of these deaths are suicide, which is nearly two-thirds of all the deaths. Access to a gun increases the risk of death by suicide by 3 times. Most people who attempt suicide do not die unless they use a gun. One-third of gun deaths are homicides. The U.S. gun homicide rate is 25 times that of another high-income country. Access to a gun increases the risk of death by homicide by 2 times. African Americans are 10 times more likely than white Americans to die by a gun homicide. Firearms also lead to the death of many American children and teens, mostly African American children and teens. There are many pros and cons to gun control. The pros include more gun control laws would reduce gun deaths. More gun control laws are needed to protect women from domestic abusers. Countries with respective gun control laws have lower gun homicide and suicide rates. And the Second Amendment was intended to protect the right of militias to own guns, not the right of individuals.
That's the non-controversial part of what I'll have to say. And secondly, there's a harm in taking guns away from good guys, which is where the controversy enters in. First of all, let's define what we mean by a prohibitionist gun control law. By definition, it means you're trying to take guns away from everybody. Theoretically, legally speaking, it applies to everyone equally, criminals and non-criminals alike. But in practice, that's not going to be the case. The NRA may have been a little over the top when they said when guns are outlawed, only outlaws will have guns, but more moderate.
The cons include the gun control laws do not deter crime. Gun ownership deters crime. The laws will not prevent criminals from obtaining guns or breaking laws. Gun control laws will prevent citizens from protecting themselves against foreign invaders. Gun control laws are ineffective and prove to be racist.
In your mind, what's the best way to understand this type of violence, particularly in cities?
I really think the best way to understand it is as an ultra-concentrated phenomenon. If you take Chicago, for example, which has kind of been the running theme of the morning, a lot of people will tell you that some of the talk about the violence there is overblown insofar as the citywide murder rate isn't necessarily as high as other smaller cities around the country. But the reality is that when you really drill down into the data, murders are ultra concentrated in a very small part of the city.
We're going to be interviewing Saima Shaukat. What actually happened?
I worked at CVS Pharmacy, and one night around 10 o'clock, we had a burglary. And a man came in with a gun asking for drugs. And we refused to give him the drugs, and then he pointed the gun at me and held it against my stomach. And then he kept saying, give us the drugs, give us the drugs. So then one of the managers, she gave the drugs to the robber. And then he left.
After it happened,
I felt traumatized. I was trembling. I called my parents and told them what had happened. I wanted to go home, but there was a police investigation and stuff. It was pretty shocking.
45 school shootings occur in about a year because of the lack of gun control. An example is the New Jersey shooting, which happened on November 15, 2019. In the New Jersey shooting, 5 men were arrested for shooting at a high school football game and injuring 3 people. This shooting happened on Friday during a game between Camden and Pleasantville. This incident had nothing to do with the students at both high schools, but it was simply presented as an opportunity for criminals to pursue their own forms of petty vengeance against one another. Once both teams realized what was going on, the players fled from the field. These problems occur because of not being able to control guns, but not being able to access guns can result in not being able to protect oneself from criminals. In conclusion, we need a system in which guns can only be available to good citizens and be taken away from criminals.